have got to be full 4-year degreed engineers. Those are the only people that are going to come to close to our site. So the entire mindset is different. If you talk to anyone in the industry and they talk about a drilling rig company, understand that's not what Greka Drilling is. We're a full service provider. You've met people like Gianpaolo that is sitting back there. Geophysicists don't exist in rig companies. In the oilfield sector, so it's very important to distinguish. You can make a column and say, oilfield sector, drilling provider, Greka Drilling. What are the distinctions? What's different about the group that you have joined? We do all the geophysical work, the geology work ourselves. A rig company doesn't do that. A rig company is normally considered to be the grunt that you basically pick up the phone, you call them, and they show up with this piece of metal called a rig. And you give them a plan. The client gives you the plan and says, go drill this. And what they do is they subcontract many people around. Some for directional drilling, some for cementing, some for casing. They don't have mud loggers. They distribute all that work around. So they're really a general contractor. You can compare them to a construction company. Building a building, but they subcontract electrical, air conditioning, whatever work they feel like subcontracting. That's not Greka Drilling. GDL is the single source for providing a full service, start to finish, what the client actually needs. People think they understand their geology. When Gianpaolo sat down with the SR, the Reliances, the Great Eastern, his geology interpretation was completely different. Our approach to subsurface was very different. When we reviewed the fault lines that existed, our clients, geologists, are from the oil and gas sector. They're used to looking at 3D seismic and then coming up with an interpretation of a fault. You don't do that in coal bed metering. There's no 3D seismic. So when Gianpaolo laid out the plan, the first instant reaction by the clients was, you don't know what you're doing. And he said, maybe not. Here's our plan. This is what we recommend we do. And here we are. It took them a long time, but they finally came around. And certainly the new management that's there is eager to see exclusively GDL on the table doing everything, because we're best in class. We do not do everything for everyone, but when it comes to coal bed methane, nobody globally knows more about this industry than we do, because we've done it since 1991. So you take that one step further, we'll do the geology work. We'll present the actual engineering plan. We'll do the drilling plan. Some of you will have the opportunity, based on your performance in the field, to step into that arena in terms of the service side. We'll then present it to our client. We'll still do what the client tells us to do, because ultimately it's the client. But our plan is on record. Just like today, we're going to start drilling for SR. I reckon we'll spot the first well early September, late August. We're drilling SR's plan. But SR has Greka's plan in black and white. Our plan's quite different. We think drilling Lefebvre wells is the way to develop the coal seam. Why drill a Lefebvre well? Hopefully you guys all know this now, but I'll just go through it in my words. The reason you drill a Lefebvre well is because we can drill with air, we can drill with water, and when we get to the mud, because we need viscosity, we can have biodegradable drilling mud. End result is we can complete a well with not an ounce of chemical in the ground. How many drilling contractors do that globally? I can answer that question. None. Greka Drilling is the only company globally that I'm aware of that has a zero carbon, zero environmental footprint on its location, on land. No one else has that. So there are many things that distinguishes us than the others, and it's not because somebody asked us to do these things. No regulator came to us and said, because of the environment, would you just reduce your chemical intake? That wasn't, no one asked us to do that. This is something we're doing on our own. But that's also distinguishing us from anyone else. Now when you take a look at, we'll see how India reacts to the clean carbon footprint, but certainly in China, the benefit of that is very simple. Water is a scarcity. It's a massive problem. Water table around the world is a real issue. Coal bed methane generates water from a strata that normally nobody drills wells into coal bed methane to produce water to irrigate the farms. That's not what people do. So this is actually an incremental supply of clean water, as long as you haven't injected chemicals into your strata, which is essentially what we don't do. So now, long and behold,